One of this film's several revisionist twists was making the nomadic loner a woman. That's just not something you saw a lot of in this era. Even more rare was to have the femme fatale still alive at the end. And as you may have noticed, nobody gets killed in this movie. The plot hinges not on the murder of Dora Bannister, but merely tricking her into signing off on the sale of her bar. Now, for a movie that ran afoul of the Breen office for numerous violations of the production code, at its core, Wicked Woman is far more innocent than most noir films. There's plenty of lechery, seduction, and extortion, but murder isn't in the cards. While the ending suggests that Billy Nash will remain a vixenish vagabond, the production itself had a surprising and a very happy conclusion. Beverly Michaels and director Russell Rouse fell in love. They married in 1955, and Michaels made only 3 more films after this. And yeah, she was a sexy, hard-as-nails dame in all of them. She quit acting in 1957, content to be a wife and mother. Their son Christopher, born in 1958, is an Oscar-winning film editor. And his father won one of those gold guys, too, for co-writing the 1959 hit Pillow Talk, starring Rock Hudson and Doris Day, not coming to Noir Alley anytime soon. Back in 2003, I presented a double bill of Russell Rouse movies in Hollywood, Wicked Woman and The Thief. A strikingly attractive woman with a short, stylish haircut greeted me before the show, expressing effusive thanks that we were paying tribute to her husband. She was 75 years old by then, but Beverly Michaels was still a knockout. And I don't believe for a second that she was 5'9". She was as tall as me. And it took a lot of coaxing to get her to do an onstage interview, since she was very shy and wanted the night to be about Russell Rouse, not her. But she was an absolute delight and was genuinely moved by how many devoted fans she still had, given that she'd only made 6 films in the 1950s. Not long after that night, Michaels moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where she passed away in 2007. As for Evelyn Scott, who made her motion picture debut in the role of Dora Bannister...
Pretty sure of yourself, aren't you? Can you start tonight, 6 o'clock? Sure, the sooner the better.
I suspect she was cast by Russell Rouse because he woke up with her every morning in the late 40s. And that's because Scott, the first female disc jockey in Los Angeles, was the morning host on radio station KMPC's popular Wake Up program, and later a singing DJ on KHJ's Rise and Shine. She acted on stage and in the movies in the 1950s, but is probably best known for a long-running role on the popular Peyton Place television series, where she played, can you beat this, a saloon keeper who kept the secrets of everybody in town. Okay, now let's talk about the movie's theme song, written by Buddy Baker and Joe Mullendore and sung by Herb Jeffries. Jeffries was a crooner out of Detroit, discovered by Louis Armstrong, who sang with the Duke Ellington Orchestra before achieving a kind of matinee idol status in the late 30s as the nation's first African-American singing cowboy. And this was when many movie houses were still segregated, and Jeffries built himself into a black version of Gene Autry and Roy Rogers in Harlem on the Prairie, Two-Gun Man from Harlem, Harlem Rides the Range, and the Bronze Buckaroo, which became his nickname. Now, what makes Jeffries' story even more fascinating is that he was born Umberto Valentino to an Irish mother and a Sicilian Ethiopian father. He took his stepfather's last name and tailored his act specifically for African-American audiences, which meant he often chose to darken his skin with makeup when performing for black audiences. But when it suited him professionally, Jeffries would then pass for white, making a good living bouncing back and forth across the color line that was enforced in many parts of the country. Jeffries lived to be 100 years old, and right up to the end, he kept confounding people about his racial and ethnic origins, insisting that it shouldn't matter to anybody. What is legendary about Herb Jeffries is that he made a living for a long time working both sides of a street separated by racism. As for Russell Rouse, he and Beverly Michaels remained married until his death in 1987. Now, with any luck, we'll be seeing more of his films here in Noir Alley because he made some good ones in the 1950s, beyond just The Well and The Thief, which I mentioned earlier. New York Confidential and House of Numbers both deserve to be better known. Unfortunately, the film he might be most known for is 1966's The Oscar, co-written with the great Harlan Ellison, which is hysterically bad on almost every level and has acquired camp classic status. Of course, there's more than a dash of that quality in Wicked Woman. Now, as usual, I invite you to share your thoughts about Wicked Woman on the Noir Alley Facebook page and Twitter feed, and then join me back here next week for another story of small-town lust, featuring another waitress too sexy for her own good. This time it's Dana Andrews who gets off the bus looking for trouble, and he finds it in the form of sultry hash slinger Linda Darnell in Fallen Angel, directed by Otto Preminger. See you then. You know, before you started, you'll end up broken-hearted. Still, you're like a moth to the flame.